Welcome to our captivating video series, where we explore fascinating stories from the pages of history. In this episode, get ready to be transported back to ancient times as we delve into the remarkable encounter that took place between Apostle Paul, Barnabas, and the people of Lystra. In the annals of Christianity, the sacred saga of Apostle Paul and his faithful companion Barnabas holds a special place. Their tireless efforts to spread the teachings of Christ brought them to numerous cities, encountering both triumphs and tribulations along their path. As Paul and Barnabas arrived in the city of Lystra, little did they know that within its walls, a momentous event awaited them, an event that would test their faith, deeply impacting the growth of Christianity. Lystra, a vibrant city in ancient Roman Asia Minor, was steeped in its polytheistic traditions. The inhabitants worshipped various gods and goddesses, and the concept of one true God was foreign to them. This environment would shape the events that unfolded. Religion wasn't just a belief system, it was the very framework of society. Every natural event was accompanied by divine implications, and supernatural beings were deemed as constant companions in the journey of life. Upon witnessing the miraculous healing of a crippled man by Paul, the people of Lystra were astounded. They were quick to attribute this extraordinary power to their familiar realm of gods and goddesses, leading them to erroneously conclude that Paul and Barnabas were divine beings themselves. Amidst the confusion and awe, the locals began to offer sacrifices and worship the apostles, fervently believing they were gods in human form. The narration is found in Acts chapter 14 verses 8 to 10. Now at Lystra there was a man sitting who could not use his feet. He was crippled from birth and had never walked. He listened to Paul speaking. And Paul, looking intently at him and seeing that he had faith to be made well, said in a loud voice, "Stand upright on your feet." And he sprang up and began walking. The people of Lystra were not accustomed to seeing miracles performed like that, and they knew that no human being could have such power to heal someone who was handicapped since birth. So, they assumed that Paul and Barnabas had to be gods in human form. We continue to read in verses 11 to 13. And when the crowd saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in Lycaonian, "The gods have come down to us in the likeness of men." Barnabas they called ZEUS, and Paul Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. And the priest of ZEUS, whose temple was at the entrance to the city, brought oxen and garlands to the gates and wanted to offer sacrifice with the crowds. The two main questions we will focus on are who were ZEUS and Hermes, and why were the people so eager to offer sacrifice to them. In Greek mythology, the Titans were a group of powerful elder gods who ruled before the Olympian gods, which ZEUS belonged to. ZEUS was the youngest son of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, but he was not considered a Titan himself. He was part of the second generation of divine beings, known as the Olympians, who overthrew the Titans and became the principal gods of the Greek pantheon. The Nelson's New and Illustrated Bible Dictionary tells us that the temple of ZEUS at Athens was the largest in Greece. His statue at Olympia was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Hermes was an ancient Greek god, known as the messenger of the gods in Greek mythology. He was the son of ZEUS, the king of the gods, and Maia, a nymph. Hermes was known for his swiftness and agility, often depicted with winged sandals and a winged hat, which allowed him to travel quickly between the mortal world and Mount Olympus, the home of the gods. Besides being a messenger, Hermes was also the god of commerce, travel, communication, boundaries, and trickery. He was considered a clever and cunning deity, associated with invention and cunning intelligence. The Dictionary of Deities and Demons in the Bible informs us that Hermes was one of the most popular and frequently represented of the Greek Olympian deities. Identified by the Romans with Mercury, he was associated from the Archaic through the Hellenistic periods with cunning and theft, music and eloquence, travel and commerce, and especially as the Hellenistic Hermes Trismegistus, magic, alchemy and astrology. The Greek grammarian A.T. Robertson mentions that Hermes was the messenger of the gods, and the spokesman of Zeus. Hermes was of beautiful appearance and eloquent in speech, the inventor of speech in legend. Our word hermeneutics, or science of interpretation, comes from this word. Now that we have identified who Zeus and Hermes were, we need to answer the second question, which is why the people wanted to sacrifice to them. To answer the question, we need to talk about the Phrygian legend of ZEUS and Philemon, which is a tale from Greek mythology that recounts the visit of Zeus and Hermes to an elderly couple living in a humble cottage. Once upon a time in Phrygia, there lived an elderly couple named ZEUS and Philemon. They were known throughout the land for their deep love and unwavering hospitality. Despite their poverty, they shared what little they had with anyone in need. One day, the gods Zeus and Hermes, disguised as mortals, decided to test the kindness of the people in the region. They knocked on many doors, seeking shelter and sustenance, but were met with closed doors and cold hearts. Finally, they arrived at the small cottage of ZEUS and Philemon. When the elderly couple opened their door and saw the weary travelers, they welcomed them with open arms, offering them the last of their meager food and a place to rest. ZEUS and Philemon were not aware of the divine nature of their guests, but they treated them with the utmost kindness and respect. As the evening went on, the gods revealed their true identities. They told ZEUS and Philemon of their intention to flood the land, punishing those who had turned them away. But because of the couple's generosity and hospitality, Zeus and Hermes had decided to save them. The gods led ZEUS and Philemon to the top of a hill, from where they could witness the impending flood. When the waters came, everything was submerged, including the homes of those who had refused them shelter. However, the cottage of ZEUS and Philemon remained untouched, transformed into a grand temple. Zeus and Hermes granted the couple's wish to serve as the temple's priests, and blessed them with a long life. They lived on, tending to the temple, until one day, standing before the temple's gates, they were transformed into an intertwining pair of trees, an oak and a lime tree. Their love, devotion, and hospitality were forever remembered and celebrated. So, the people of Lystra wanted to worship Paul and Barnabas by offering sacrifices to avoid the fate of the people who perished in the flood because they did not care for Zeus and Hermes. The biblical account continues in verses 14 to 19. But when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of it, they tore their garments and rushed out into the crowd, crying out, "Men, why are you doing these things? We also are men, of like nature with you, and we bring you good news that you should turn from these vain things to a living God, who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in them. In past generations he allowed all the nations to walk in their own ways. Yet he did not leave himself without witness, for he did good by giving you rains from heaven and fruitful seasons, satisfying your hearts with food and gladness." Even with these words they scarcely restrained the people from offering sacrifice to them. But Jews came from Antioch and Iconium, and having persuaded the crowds, they stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city, supposing that he was dead. Paul and Barnabas were horrified by the people wanting to worship them, and used the occasion to preach the gospel to them. They seized the occasion and addressed the people by acknowledging their religious zeal but redirecting their devotion towards the God who created heaven and earth. They spoke of Jesus Christ, the Savior who sacrificed himself for the salvation of humankind. Instead of repenting and believing the good news, the people ended up stoning Paul in order to kill him. As we conclude this episode, we reflect on the profound message embedded within the events that unfolded in Lystra. Apostle Paul and Barnabas, though mistaken for gods, utilized this encounter to sow seeds of faith and truth, leaving an indelible mark on the early Christian movement. Join us next time as we continue to unravel the rich tapestry of biblical history, unearthing captivating stories that continue to resonate with us today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more intriguing episodes.